Good morning. Welcome to the Department of Family and Support Services Expanded Shelters RFP webinar. Just a few housekeeping rules. Due to the volume of participants, everyone has been placed on mute. Please submit questions via the questions box and we'll respond to questions at the midpoint and end of the presentation. Please make use of the question box to notify us of any technical issues. Please be advised that the webinar is being recorded and that anything stated at this webinar is not intended to change the solicitation document. Any changes will be in writing in the form of an amendment issued by the Department of Family and Support Services. The purpose of this webinar is to provide information for the solicitation. A copy of the recording will be posted on the DFSS YouTube channel with a link to the recording in the DFSS webpage at www.chicago.gov/city departments under the alerts and or funding opportunity tabs. Please give it up to 5 business days to upload. DFSS retains the right to share a list of registrants to this webinar, along with their contact and organizational information at our discretion. At this time, I'm going to give the Homeless Division the floor to introduce themselves.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lucy Morales. I am a project manager with the Homeless Division.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Howard. I am a director with the Homeless Services Division here at the Department of Family and Support Services. Thank you for joining us today. And I will pass over to Alex.
Hey all, my name is Alejandra Magaña, also go by Alex. I'm one of the directors here for Homeless Services. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, team. And at this time, we're going to go into the purpose of the RFP, the background, information about the scope and program description, the selection criteria, the timeline, technical assistance for applicants and e-procurement, and then one last round for questions. And with that being said, I will pass it over to the Homeless Division to move forward with discussing the purpose of the RFP.
Thank you, Julian. The purpose of this RFP, the Chicago Department of Family and Support Service Homeless Division seeks applicants to take over operations of 2 existing shelters serving people experiencing homelessness in hotel settings. These programs will support clients experiencing homelessness in moving to appropriate and stable permanent housing while providing a safe, accessible place to stay in the interim. Next slide, please. The background: in 2024, community partners, city and state official, and people with lived expertise began meeting as part of the One System initiative to create an equitable, integrated system to serve anyone experiencing homelessness, regardless of how long they have been in the United States. Through the series of intentional meetings, recommendations were drafted to finalize a comprehensive homeless system with a focus on the following areas: shelter access, community integration, data needs, provider and service coordination and training. This transition folded roughly 3,800 beds from the new arrivals mission into regular homeless system. Scoring of respondents' applications for this RFP will be impacted by how clearly they can articulate the plans to integrate strategies necessary to address these areas for improvement in their day-to-day operation and long-term strategic planning with clients. Priority for improvement include expanding equitable access to shelter, decreasing length of stay, and improving rehousing outcomes. More information on these can be found in the RFP. Next slide, please. The goals of this RFP is DFSS is seeking providers to take over operations of 2 existing homeless shelter systems in hotel settings. 1 serving families with children under the age of 18, and 1 serving adult individuals. These programs will serve households with diverse needs and varying cultural backgrounds who are experiencing homelessness, helping them transition into stable housing, permanent housing, while offering a safe and accessible place to stay in the interim. Selected providers will work to stabilize families and singles by providing case management services that will help them obtain identification and benefits, navigate housing options, and connect to community resources that support both securing and maintaining housing. This includes addressing a range of needs such as physical, mental, legal, emotional, and financial through a trauma-informed approach. Next slide, please. The current state and priorities for improvement. Scoring respondents' application for this RFP will be impacted by how clearly they can articulate their plans to integrate strategies necessary to address these areas for improvement in their day-to-day operations and long-term strategic planning with clients. Again, priority for improvements include expanding equitable access to shelter, decreasing length of stay, and improving rehousing outcomes. Again, more information on these areas of improvement can be found in the RFP. Next slide, please. The target population. The target population for this RFP is families and individuals that are experiencing homelessness in accordance to the Federal Homeless Agency Assistance and Rapid Transition to Housing, HARTH definition. This can include households consisting of one single adult, multiple single adults, or one or more adults with children. The population experiencing homelessness in Chicago is also disproportionately includes individuals in the following groups who can face particularly high barriers to accessing services and housing, including persons with limited English proficiency. In recent years, we have seen Spanish, Creole, French, and Polish speakers. These have been the most common. Persons on the sex offender registry. This would only apply to the single shelter. Persons living with disabilities. Persons on the with justice involved backgrounds. Persons who identify as LGBTQ+. People who identify as Latin American Indigenous people. Survivors of gender-based violence, and recent immigrants to the United States. Next slide, please. Program requirements. DFSS is seeking proposal from qualified agencies to take over 24/7 operations of shelter programs in the facilities listed below and must assume shelter operations by September 1st, 2025. Shelter programs currently operating in these facilities are operated by state contracted agencies. DFSS intends to have a transition period between the awarded agency and the current contracted agency. The length and timing of the transition period will be determined by DFSS, but the awarded agency will need to be prepared to assume operations within 30 days. Respondents wishing to apply for more than one shelter facility must submit a separate application for each facility. The facilities available for operations are listed in the table you see in the slide. Please see Appendix A for site profiles with additional information about each site. One of the sites is Midway Shelter, is located on 7353 South Cicero Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60629. The bed capacity is between 316 beds to 632 beds, and this shelter is serving singles. The other facility is South DuSable Shelter. It's located at 4900 A South DuSable Lakeshore Drive, Chicago, Illinois, 60615. The bed capacity is up to 764 beds. And this is the shelter that will be serving families with children. Next slide, please. Program requirements. Shelter programs must deliver the following services, which reflect the essential elements defined in the Chicago COC program model chart. Provide a safe environment open 24/7 to people of all backgrounds with a place to sleep free of charge and with a low barrier entry. Provide basic needs like meals, showers, and toiletries, laundry, clothing, bus cards, hygiene kits, welcome kits, and limited storage. Provide connection to housing options by supporting clients in completing the CES housing assessment, either directly or through a referral, and supporting clients in identifying and navigating other housing options, either directly or through referral. An example, working with clients to create a housing plan, search for affordable and appropriate units, complete housing application, and navigate the move-in process. Shelters must also provide on-site case management to ensure clients are linked to services and community resources that will help them obtain housing. For example, building income, building independent living skills, developing education career path, developing language proficiency, addressing a variety of physical, mental, emotional, or other needs that may not be provided by the agency. Provider must also have a plan for addressing challenges of operating a hotel motel program, i.e. individuals in hotel motels can sometimes feel isolated and thus may have a difficult time engaging in services. This is not an extensive list of the program requirements, so please see the RFP for additional information. Performance goals and outcomes. To track progress towards achieving the outcomes and goals of this program and assess success, DFSS will monitor a set of performance indicators for all shelter types that may include but are not limited to percentage of participants who exit shelter to a more stable housing destination, percentage of participants who exit shelter to a more permanent housing destination, percentage of participants who maintain or increase income, including employment or benefits, percentage of participants with complete CES assessments. Next slide, please. The applicants will be evaluated on the following selection criteria. The DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. Respondents must provide detailed evidence examples that demonstrate an understanding of the population they plan to serve and is specific on the population's strengths, assets, challenges, and needs. The respondent's leadership reflect and or directly engages with the people of the community it serves. Respondent describes specific mechanisms by which client feedback is incorporated into service delivery. Next slide, please. Selection criteria, organizational capacity. DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. Respondents provides a full list of essential positions, personnel in the areas mentioned, and qualifications for each position, i.e. licensed clinical social worker. Ties these positions directly into service delivery for the client population and speaks in detail about hiring, onboarding, and integration of the new staff into the organization for this program. Respondent understands the need for staff with language proficiencies. Respondent describes a robust infrastructure around fiscal monitoring for their organization. Respondent clearly describes how they would scale to operate and has a plan for staffing up quickly. Respondent has specific policies or infrastructure to support speedy hiring and onboarding, which includes a 30-day transition plan. Next slide, please. DFSS will evaluate applicants based on the following criteria for the strength of proposed program. Respondent describes their program model in detail. Throughout, they tie specific elements of the program, i.e. case management, avenue for service provisions, to the core needs of the RSP and the target population. Respondent easily describes the client's journey from start to conclusion of the program, recognizing how the program would meet clients' unique needs. Respondent gives specific examples of how they will incorporate the mentioned evidence and best practices for the program model. Direct connections are made between the respondent's programming and the COC core values. Respondent speaks to how they would identify client needs, tailored plan for case management, plan for outside service referrals, and how they would keep clients engaged and working towards the goals. Respondent details the way in which partner agencies will participate in specific aspects of the program and provide named examples of agencies where agreements already exist or are in process. Respondent details the way in which the program would maintain high utilization rates. And respondent describes how they would avoid conflicts or discharges on site with the goal of retaining clients on site. Next slide, please. Selection criteria, performance management and outcomes. DFSS will evaluate application based on the following criteria. The respondent must demonstrate evidence of strong past performance against desired outcomes, goals, and performance metrics, and or other notable accomplishments in providing services to the target population. Respondent has experience using data to inform/improve its services or practices. Respondent describes a system of data capture that will allow for desired analysis and speak to their ability and action steps for disaggregating data consistently and systematically. The respondent has a relevant system and process needed to collect and store key participant and performance data. Next slide, please. DFSS will evaluate based on the following criteria for reasonable cost, budget justification, and leverage of funds. Respondent has a physical capacity to implement the proposed program. The respondent demonstrates reasonable implementation costs and funding requests relative to its financial and human resources. The proposed budget supports the proposed scope of work and accounts for all expenses in the program. Next slide, please. The attachments are pretty standard. Liability insurance, board member identification, SAM certificate, certificate of good standing, bylaws and articles of incorporation, financial statement, IRS determination letter, and budget forms. Next slide, please. So we will be conducting site visits for this for these RFPs for people who are interested in seeing the layout of the shelters. They're all scheduled for this Thursday starting at 9 a.m. The first site visit will be at Midway, which is at 7353 South Cicero Avenue in West Lawn. And the site visit will take place from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Apologies, that should be an A, till 10 a.m. And for South DuSable, 4900 South DuSable Lakeshore Drive, that one is also scheduled for this Thursday, April 17th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And anyone who is wishing to register for the site visit, they can do so via the SurveyMonkey that is found on the RFP. Please know that only 2 people per agency. The evaluation process evaluated on the strength of the proposed program and responsiveness to selection criteria. Failure to submit a complete proposal or respond fully to all requirements may take your submission subject to rejection. The commissioner, upon review of recommended agencies, may reject or deny recommend agencies that have applied for grants based on previous performance and or area need. DFSS reserves the right to ensure that all mandated services are available citywide and provide a linguistically and culturally appropriate manner. Well, today is a pre-proposal webinar, Monday, 4/14 at 10 a.m. The due date to submit this proposal is Wednesday, 4/16/2025. Apologies, I think that should be a 5. And applications are due at 5/9/2025, and the program period begins on September 1st, 2025. The term of contract executed under this RFP will be from July 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2026. Based on the need, availability of funds, and contractor performance, DFSS may extend term for up to 4 additional years, with each extension not exceeding 1 year. Anticipated funding per awards will be based on a bed rate of 80 to 85 per bed per night for South DuSable and 124 to 230 bed per night for Midway. Please submit a budget for 1 year, 12 months of services. Cost category definitions are attached as budget instructions in every RFP. Be thoughtful and inclusive when developing your budget. Apply for your program's actual cost. We generally cannot give you more money than what you asked for. Use the reasonable cost questions on the application to discuss how you would determine the cost reflected in the budget. Common mistakes we see in the budget are fringes, check your calculation. Supplies, these are frequently under or over budgeted for. Client assistance, if this is an appropriate and allowable cost, don't forget to include it. Make sure your job description titles and your job description uploads have the same title. Also put a brief description of the job in the budget document itself if you have not discussed it specifically in your application. Put your budget in the appropriate column and show your match. Next slide, please. Applications are due on May 9th at noon Central Time.
Thank you, Lucy. At this time, we're gonna pause. We do have a couple questions. First question is, when will agencies be awarded?
I can jump in on some of these. So we do not have I cannot commit to like a specific date when agencies will be awarded, but it will be sort of as soon as possible, likely in June. And I think the second question is related of, current agencies on site are contracted until July 1st. Will shelters be closing on June 30th and then reopen under a new delegate agency on September 1st? So this will depend a bit by site and by agency selected. The current and so basically the selected agency will work with DFSS and the existing delegate on a transition plan. But just to preview, we anticipate that Midway will be sort of closing by June 30th. And then we'll reopen under a new delegate agency on September 1st, since we're switching populations there. Midway is currently serving families. It will transition to serving single adults. Whereas we don't anticipate that we would need a similar pause in operations at South DuSable.
Thank you. That appears to be all the questions we have at this time. Again, we will pause towards the end of the presentation for any additional questions. We're going to start with application tips. We strongly encourage agencies to start their applications as early as possible and save them as often as possible. If you have never done business with the City of Chicago, please register into iSupplier, also known as e-procurement, as soon as possible. Review RFP narratives and application questions closely, and remember that they align with the scope and the selection criteria. Please use the information in the RFP for guidance in formulating your answers. There is a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces. Each response is allotted 4,000 characters. Please try not to use the back button on your browser. You could potentially lose any work. Again, save your application as early as possible, start it as early as possible. A couple tips for working in e-procurement. To submit multiple applications for a single RFP, applicants will need to set up a unique user account in iSupplier. The e-procurement system is not capable of submitting more than one distinct proposal per associated email address. Therefore, you have to use a separate email address for each submission. For RFPs that require a completed cost proposal, in this case, it does not. We need a completed budget form for this one. You can submit your application and later amend it up until the due date of May 9th, 2025 at 12 noon. Avoid the rush and possible mishaps by submitting early, and plan on your submission taking approximately 30 to 60 minutes. Please be advised that late applications cannot be accepted. Make use of the e-procurement hotline for help at 312-744-4357. And they also can be reached at customer support at cityofchicago.org via email. The e-procurement hotline operates during business hours only, which is Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. As far as agency requirements, we require agencies to provide articles of incorporation or any amended articles of incorporation. And we also require an IRS affirmation letter. It's for non-for-profit agencies only, and the letter must be dated within 60 days of submission. You can obtain this letter by calling the IRS directly at 1-877-829-5500. If you are a for-profit agency, please submit your original letter from the IRS showing your FEIN number. A UEI number is required, as well as a central contractor registration. Provide a copy of the entity overview page on the www.sam.gov website. Lastly, a certificate of good standing letter with the state of Illinois is required. As of April of 2024, we have a labor peace agreement ordinance, which will apply to all DFSS and CDPH delegates that have 20 or more employees working for their organization. Contractors must provide written notice to the commissioner or her designee within 72 hours of becoming aware that employees want to organize or that a union seeks to represent employees. Contractor must enter into this LPA within 90 days of receiving notice that a labor organization seeks to represent their employees. An LPA, also known as a labor peace agreement, is an agreement between an employer and a labor union that ensures that an organizing drive is not impacted by union busting techniques, including employee retaliation, and in return, they will not strike or stop work in a way that will impact human services. For technical assistance, on the DFSS webpage, there will be a link to the RFP of interest and the training documents. Please see the alerts section on our website. And for questions on registration and e-procurement technical assistance, again, please reach out to customer support at cityofchicago.org. That's their email, and they can be reached via phone at 312-744-4357. There are also training materials, which include documents and videos online. Please visit the cityofchicago.org website under iSupplier and then online training materials. At this time, we're going to delve into how to enter your responses and accepting amendments. We're going to start with the accepting the amendment first before you move forward with submitting your application. So step one in accepting the amendment, we're going to create quote from the drop-down menu in the actions box and then click on go. And this will take you to the application page where you can get started. If the RFP you are interested in has been amended, and in this case, this RFP will have an amendment, you will need to acknowledge and accept the amendment to start and submit your response. And to accept the amendment, you click on View Amendment History, circled here. Step two, to begin the acceptance and acknowledgement process, follow these steps after clicking View Amendment History. First, you click on the document number. Next, click on the affinity or eyeglass icon to review the amended changes to the RFP. And lastly, you click on the Acknowledge Amendments button to acknowledge receipt and understanding of the changes to proceed. By acknowledging the amendment, you are indicating that you are aware of the changes made to the RFP. Step three, when you get to the screen, you click on the I accept checkbox, and then you click on Acknowledge. And then you click on Yes to indicate that you confirm acknowledgement of the amendment. Next, you click on the checkbox that you accept the terms and conditions, and then you click on Accept to accept them. And this is the final step in acknowledging and accepting your amendment. So once the amendment has been acknowledged and accepted, you can then move forward with submitting your response, which we will go into right now, how to submit your applications. When you are ready to submit, this means that you have completed every requirement question, you've attached all required documents. You can start by saving your draft one last time and then clicking continue. If you are missing information, you will be given an error message at the top of the page. Usually the error message directs to something left undone. So in the last example, the error message indicated that the lines had not been completed. As you can see, the error message says that RFQ control requires you to quote on all lines, so something was missing. In this example, the error is about an unanswered question in the application or requirement section. The quote value refers to your, in this case, missing answer. So once your application is free from errors, you are ready to proceed and submit. And at this point, clicking continue should put your application into the review and submit phase. Once you see the summary screen, this will be your last chance to review all of your data and confirm that everything is accurate, that everything has been attached. Please check all of your attachments and all of your responses. Just double check everything and scroll to the bottom of the screen to see all of your responses. At the very bottom of the page, you'll be asked to provide an electronic signature. Please be sure to fill in the signature before checking the box. And lastly, you can submit your application down at the bottom of the screen of the page. Once your application has been submitted, you will receive an email from eProcurement. It's basically a confirmation email saying that we received your quote. You will receive this confirmation email within 24 hours of your submission. However, please feel free to reach out if you want confirmation prior to then. At this time, we're gonna pause for questions. I do see a couple coming in. The first is, what are response rate times and any usage estimates?
Jillian, I actually think that one might have been a question for you.
Any response rate times? Any usage estimates?
Maybe we can ask that person to provide some additional clarification.
Yes, can you please clarify, expound on that question? Sorry about that.
It might have been for like e-procurement support. It was, I think it came in around that time.
Okay, oh, all right, if you're referring to e-procurement response times, they're pretty responsive. Me personally, I would prefer to, if I were an agency, I would reach out via email, because sometimes, especially when it's close to the bid closing on RFPs, that their line tends to get, there's a lot of calls coming through. So I would suggest reaching out via email. But again, just if you start your applications as early as possible, you can avoid a lot of hangups and a lot of things that might happen if you wait a little later. Hopefully that answered your question. The second question they had is, can we charge for recruiter or HR times, or all baked into one hourly rate?
That's a good question. I'm reading this as can they include in their proposed budget sort of funds for like a staff recruiter? I'm gonna double check that, and we'll respond to that in a written amendment to the RFP.
I don't see any other questions. The question deadline is April 16th. So, those questions can be sent to, the RFP captain, which is Lucy Morales. She can be reached at 312-743-1973. And her email is lucy.morales@cityofchicago.org. I do see one additional question. It says, will agencies contract with the site owner directly? Will the facility be maintained by the owner, or is that the agency's responsibility?
Yeah, we can give a more comprehensive answer to this in the written amendment, but you will see in the RFP, there's sort of instructions on that the applicant will need to hold the contract with the site owner, and there is sort of guidance on costs in the RFP, as well as sort of description of the current contract in an appendix to the RFP to inform sort of proposed budgets and proposals.
Thank you, Kimberly. And again, you can ask further, you still have time to ask additional questions. The question deadline is Wednesday, the 16th. And those can be sent to Lucy Morales. Her contact information is listed here. And for any non-programmatic questions, so any questions regarding e-procurement, the system, those can be sent to the e-procurement hotline or their email. Their email is customersupport@cityofchicago.org. And their hotline is open from Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they can be reached at 312-744-4357. And your questions can also be sent to me, or you can copy me. My name is Jillian Black. I'm the procurement proposal coordinator. And my email is jillian.black@cityofchicago.org. At this time, I'm gonna hand it back over to Homeless. If you guys have any last remarks before we close out.
No, I don't think so. I'll just say thank you so much for attending today. Appreciate the interest and the good questions. And we look forward to reading your applications.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Again, good luck on your responses, and everyone have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks all.